Welcome to Sideline Savants, a fantasy football podcast dedicated to helping you set your lineups, navigate the waiver wire, prepare for bye weeks, strategically plan trades, and ultimately win your matchup. Do you have what it takes to become a sideline savant? Yes, sir. Here we are, guys. Welcome. We just got through week 7, jumping into week 8 here of fantasy football. Love it. Welcome to Sideline Savants, where we sit here and we talk about fantasy football, the week that was. We'll talk about the week that is. And I'm not here alone to talk about this stuff. I have my man, Mr. Cody Johnson from Drew Code Sports Talk and the West War Room Rivals, man. Welcome, Cody. It is a pleasure to have you on Sideline Savants, man.
Jason, I've been looking forward to this invite, man. I cannot wait to dive into it with you. I'm so stoked, man. I'm pumped. Let's do it.
It has been an interesting fantasy football season so far, to say the least. It's crazy that we're already here in week 8. It goes by way too fast with fantasy football. You're so excited to get to the season, and all of a sudden, boom, here you are. And this is that time of year where, you know, the rich get richer. A lot of guys are navigating through the injuries and some of the stuff going on, and they're setting themselves up for the playoffs. And then, of course, you got a lot of guys that are just kind of, man, all right, so much for this season.
Right.
And you just kind of show up to make sure you're taking care of your lineups. And guys, don't be that guy. Every league, unfortunately, has that guy that once they're out of it, they don't set their lineup. They're missing players. Guys are on buys, who's hurt, and then they disappear. Don't be that guy. Show up. It doesn't matter if you're 0-7. Show up. Keep messing. You may mess somebody else's playoffs up. So, you know, don't quit playing. You know, play to kind of take somebody out, because you never know. You may come in and get a win and take somebody out and kick them out of their playoffs. That's your Super Bowl. So don't be that guy.
That's right.
There's a lot of them in there.
That's what season punishments are for those that don't participate. You need to have some fail safes in there.
Yeah, and lucky enough, in the leagues I'm in, we don't have one of those yet. We have a lot of victory stuff,
sure,
but we haven't come up with punishments yet. So I think that's on the horizon. So we want to navigate that. And of course, if you're in Dynasty, I'm not saying you want to tank for a draft pick, but you know, you get those draft picks in Dynasty, and then you try to flip next year. So, but set your lineups, be in the moment, be in the game. Don't be that guy, please.
That's right.
But Cody, I don't know if you've ever. I know you've watched the show, but you know, I know this is the first time you're on here. But I would say I want to mess with you a little bit, but I'm definitely going to give you some questions here, because you know, I always pull out of my pocket some questions, because I like trivia.
All right.
I like kooky things. You know, people don't know about some of these players. You know what they do in the, you know, what they did in the past, what they do in the off season. You know, some kind of hobbies they have. So, I'm already going to hit you up, because you know, it's right out the gate. So I'm going to hit you up right now with a trivia question. So be prepared.
All right, hit me.
All right. At his Chattanooga Metro High School, this player once rushed for 420 yards and 8 touchdowns in 3 quarters.
Wow. Can I ask some questions to kind of get a clearer answer?
You can ask for a hint. I'll give you a hint.
Okay. Are they a current player?
They are. Everything I do is current. There's no history. This is no back in the day. Everybody is current.
Yeah. And you said they're
all starters too. There's no like, you know, I don't do bench guys. Chattanooga. I can't even say it right. In Chattanooga, yeah, Metro High School. 420 yards and 8 touchdowns in 3 quarters.
There's 2 players that come to mind. I'm either thinking Jonathan Taylor or Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm going to go with Gibbs.
Look at you have already started off good. Yes, that is Jahmyr Gibbs. And
let's go.
Sonic had himself a breakout game on Monday night. Man, 218 total yards, 2 touchdowns, a little over 36 points for fantasy football. This has been an odd year for running backs. You know, we have Taylor, we have CMC. it just, and then the consistency kind of falls off a little bit. But man, what a performance Monday night from Gibbs, kind of reestablishing himself as one of the top 3 to 5 running backs in this league here, because Detroit does not move the same without Mr. Gibbs running the football. I know they have the two-headed monster there with Sonic and Knuckles, but Gibbs is the guy, and he showed his speed on that breakaway touchdown, 70-plus yards. He just burned, 22 miles an hour? He just burned everybody down the field. So, but you got it right. Thank you very much very good for getting that. But yeah, that's you watch
that's a tough one.
Them high school games, man. That's crazy. 22, 420 yards and 8 touchdowns. That's bananas, man.
Well, you've heard that stat with Derrick Henry. He still has not rushed for more yards in the NFL than he did in his high school playing career, right?
Yep.
He has like 4 million rush yards or whatever in high school, and compared to like 10,000 or whatever in the NFL, he's not nowhere close to his high school number. And that was only 4 years. He's been in the league for 10. So
right. When you're a man amongst boys, sometimes you make things like that. So, but that was pretty crazy. So, and a huge stud coming out of the weekend too. And I always like to do my fantasy studs here too. And Cody, you being my guest on the show, I always give you guys the first dibs. So, this week we had a lot of great fantasy performances, man. Who it was your stud of the week this week in fantasy football?
I'm kind of nervous to give this to you, Jason, because when I tell you, you might not invite me back on the show, but I
wouldn't do that.
I'm gonna have to go with Bo Nix. I mean, with what he did in the fourth quarter against, unfortunately, your Giants.
Yes.
And I'm not even gonna say that the Broncos defense held their own. I'm not even gonna say the Giants really let them down. They were one stop away from clinching that game. All they had to do was get Denver off the field. But Bo Nix, though, 279 yards, and I think he threw 180 of those in the fourth quarter itself. He had 2 rushing touchdowns, both in the fourth. He converted 2 2-point conversions after his 2 scores, and he threw 2 passing touchdowns. I mean, how do you compete with that? I mean, he brought, unfortunately, the Broncos back in the fourth quarter against your Giants to set up the game-winning field goal. And 40 points fantasy-wise, it's hard to not say that he's the stud of the week, because second-year quarterback, he did that, I would argue, against like a very good defense on that front line, and he just made magic. And unfortunately, Bo Nix, he outlasted, and he did really, really well. If you had him as a starter, you reap the benefits. So
you probably won your week, because that was an amazing performance. Looking at it from a fantasy football perspective and not a Giants fan perspective, ridiculous. Because I think he had, I don't know, it was like 14 points going into the fourth quarter, and like he literally scored all those points in the fourth quarter. So ridiculous performance from Mr. Bo Nix. And I like Bo Nix. I think he fits there in Denver. I like the way he plays. He rushes too. So he had 48 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns rushing. So he can get you in the air. He's not a huge running threat, but he can get you some yards if he needs them. So I think that team there is just kind of missing a few pieces. I mean, you got Sutton, but after that, you don't really have a huge number 2. I still think they're really lacking in the tight end position. So for him to do what he did on Sunday and break Giants fans' hearts with that catastrophic collapse was amazing what he did, man. So Bo Nix, I hate you, but man, great performance. But that's a great stud, man. So my stud is someone we thought was gonna just fade away because his quarterback was out. So that was Jamar Chase, man. I love some Jamar Chase. He is still, the top wide receiver. I'm on St. Brown, I think, is number 1, but I would put Jamar. Puka getting hurts too, because I think he was up there too. But man, 161 yards, 1 touchdown, a little over 38 points. Joe Flacco came in off of coach, flew into Cincinnati, didn't even read the playbook. He probably just looked at a few plays, drew some stuff in the dirt, and just said, Jamar, go deep and I'll chuck it up to you. And he did. So what a phenomenal performance. He still showed why he's one of the best wide receivers in the league. he made Joe Flacco look 10 years younger, flourishing with Flacco. So Jamar Chase, I hope he continues it. I have him in one of my leagues too, so I hope he continues it this year. We'll see if Jolton Joe can keep it going. But when you have Jamar Chase, especially when you come from the Browns and you make Pittsburgh fans, this is just such a great dramatic. I almost wanted this to be like a TV show with that AFC North here, and and listen, be a fly on the wall when that call came through to the Bengals, and I'm like, yeah, we'll give you Joe. Let's see what the Steelers think of that. So yeah, that's great stuff right there, man.
Yeah, honestly, it's a great pick, and if Jamar Chase makes Joe Flacco a fantasy relevant quarterback, like
he does.
And say what you want about Pittsburgh, I'm not even going to say that they're a top 10 defense. I know that they've played some bad teams, so their stats are a little skewed. And our boy Chris DeLuca, who's a Steelers fan, I'm sure he's going to appreciate this. But the Steelers defense absolutely got cooked by Chase, and I think Chase is one of those things. As long as he has a comparable quarterback throwing him the ball, he's a must start every week. Because when Jake Brownie was there, you maybe had to think about, do I start him in place going against, like Seattle or whatever.
Right.
And then now that Joe Flacco's there throwing the ball and that's a comparable quarterback, this is without a doubt the most talented quarterback that Joe Flacco's receiver, that Joe Flacco's ever played with. So,
big time. Time.
So Chase is all over the field. He can go through anything. And T Higgins had a pretty good comparable game too. So I think if you have Cincinnati receivers, I think, Joe Flacco proved that you can trust him to get him the balls. He'll still also turn the ball over. Let's not act like he's not a turnover machine, but you can count on Chase still getting fed the ball 12 times a game at least. So
as long as that Bengals offensive line, which is not the best, as long as they can keep Joe upright, he'll get those guys the ball. And if he can float them till Burrow comes back, that would be absolutely amazing. But yeah, Joe has made Jamar Chase fantasy relevant for this year, which for all fantasy owners is phenomenal. So, wow, stud of the week. So I got another question for you here. Okay. Since we're kind of hovering in this division, this avid skateboarder in 2022 won the Connerly Trophy for most outstanding player in Mississippi. Who am I talking about?
Oh, Mississippi 2022.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. Skateboarder. Shoot, man. All right. You're making me really think about this one.
Yeah. Also is very smart. Had a invite to Princeton, I believe.
Okay. My only hint that I'm going to ask for is that offense or defense?
Offense. Everything is offense. We love some defense, but everything.
All right. You never know.
No.
Skateboard. Shoot. Is it Ashton Genty?
No, but good guess though. I'll give you that. The hint was I was hovering in this division, but Quinshawn Judkins, man.
Okay, nice.
Yes.
I mean, I was on track as a running back. Not bad.
you were close. I give you that, but yeah, it's actually pretty cool that he started off in Mississippi, but then of course went to Ohio State. But a little over 26 points, 84 yards, 3 touchdowns. So is Quinshawn Judkins slowly working his way up to be a top 5 running back?
100%. I mean, no offense, but the Browns actually have a pretty respectable offensive line. I think one of the things that the Browns are going through right now is they're just not a great organization, whether it's in the front office, who decides to have 4 quarterbacks on the roster to start the season,
right?
Or, whatever the case may be. I mean, you have Kevin Stefanski, I think is a really good head coach. I think Stefanski just has dealt with a bad hand and, ownership brought in Deshaun Watson, which I don't think that Kevin Stefanski is a fan of that. I think because of how the Browns operations are, he had a force to start him. So I think having Judkins here to build around offensively, I think is great. I think he could be a player that is on a bad team, but is super productive. And, my team had one of those last year, and Brock Bowers. Another player that kind of comes to mind is when I think last year Tyrone Tracy for your Giants was kind of one of those, like, not that the Giants weren't a bad team, but they had a pretty good running back who you kind of rely on. And I look at like Carolina Panthers with Trooper Hubbard, who, not a great team, but a very good player that is still productive, respectively, considering what they have around. I think Judkins is one of those players that, this season, year 2, I think he's going to have a really big explosion. So if you're in a dynasty league and you picked him up, I think you have a diamond in the rough, in my opinion.
Oh, I thought it was a great pickup. I got him in a couple of leagues.
Right.
It was in his dynasty because, in the beginning of the season, you had some questions about him with some troubles,
right.
But which he navigated through. But he's a lot of fun to watch. I think he could be on that Gibbs level.
Right.
You watch him run, you watch the way he runs, he attacks with power. And it's, again, you look at a fan base in Cleveland that is starving to cheer for somebody. They are, they're one of the best fan bases in sports because, the look what the Browns are, but yet they still pack the stadium. They just approved the new stadium there in Cleveland. They're going to be building a huge mega stadium there now, all these mega stadiums that are going up. So this kid is something special. So fantasy football guys, I think he's going to be next year a first round draft pick.
Yeah.
In your standard leagues, I think he's going to be one of those guys that he's going to be targeted early because he is something special. But yeah, that was pretty cool. That's okay. 1 for 1. We'll let you say you got some other opportunity here. I'll give you that. But I want to jump into the West Side because you got that Oakland, Oakland Raiders. I talk about the Oakland Raiders.
I wish they were Oakland. They might actually be pretty good right around now.
I missed that. It's hard to say Las Vegas Raiders because they're not playing very well right now, but it's a whole other story. But you do the West War Room Rivals with Matt, Corey, and Austin, man. You guys do a phenomenal job talking about that AFC West, with the Raiders and the Broncos and the Chiefs and the Chargers. So great job and the work you're doing, guys. If you haven't checked it out, jump on the YouTube channel, find West War Room Rivals. They're doing big things, man. They have some great interviews. Dick Vermeil not that long ago, which is phenomenal. So great job there. But the West Side is the best side. So we're going to jump in. And since I have you here, we're going to deep dive a little bit into fantasy football, Western side here. You got some good teams here. Denver with that win, 5-2. The Chargers 4-3. The Chiefs 4-3. Vegas, you're not out of it at 2-5. But Geno not looking like Geno.
Yeah.
He's looking a little flat, so I don't know if that's a Pete Carroll thing or what, but we'll get into that here.
Okay.
But I want to definitely jump in here. I got some Western questions for you here, my man. I want to talk to you about. So first question is Patrick Mahomes.
Okay.
Pat Mahomes is being Patrick Mahomes again. Fantasy football. If you had to draft and you had a pick, are you taking Patrick Mahomes or are you taking the field? Who are you taking?
If I'm drafting a fantasy quarterback,
yep,
I probably still would not go with Mahomes. I probably would go with other options. Not that Mahomes isn't having a great fantasy season this year. I think he's the number one fantasy quarterback right now today. But that does not mean that I can trust what he didn't do 2.5 consecutive seasons. Like there was second half of, I think it was 3 seasons ago, one of their Super Bowl runs, he just was not fantasy relevant.
Right.
Last season, he was not really relevant fantasy wise. I mean, we're not talking about just strictly NFL games. He's Patrick Mahomes, of course, but fantasy wise, he's just not the guy that you want leading your team. This year, I think is a little different, but you also have quarterbacks like Drake May. I would take over Patrick Mahomes. I would look at, Wow. I have him in a fantasy league right now. He's literally winning me games. Drake May is by himself and I think he's on the ascent. Like he's just going to go up from here. I think the team is building. And I'm only talking fantasy wise. I'm not talking NFL. I'm not talking about day-to-day stuff.
In here, it's all about points. So
correct.
It's hard to watch it's hard to watch a football game nowadays without seeing the points kind of calculate in your head.
Yeah,
That wasn't a touchdown. That was 6 points plus how many yards? So.
Exactly. That touchdown catch was 20 yards plus the 6.
Exactly.
And do I have a catch bonus on that one?
Exactly.
But also too, and again, I think you could also say probably, and Dak Prescott right now is number 2. In terms of longevity, though, I can see where the Chiefs are going to blow out games, but Patrick Mahomes is not going to throw for 4 touchdowns every single game like he's done the last 3 games. But I see that Dak Prescott's team is going to require him to throw 4 touchdowns every game. Right. And to me, that's a little bit different. Now, again, today, like Patrick Mahomes has played Superman from week 1 to 7, but now that they're getting healthier, that offense is going to spread out with having a lot more of the running backs healthy, the receivers. I don't think Patrick Mahomes is going to go 4 or 5 touchdowns, but I would just say if I'm drafting Patrick Mahomes, he probably wouldn't be my first quarterback drafted. I'm going to be honest. Like, I probably would side with another quarterback, or how I like to do things. I like to go kind of quarterback late in rounds that I can find sleeper value in, because I'd much rather value positions of need like receiver, maybe a Juckins like running back that falls in the draft and no one really looks at, pick up value that way. But no, I don't think Patrick Mahomes would be my first quarterback.
Interesting. And that rolls into my second question, because, he's got a quarterback in his division that is on the rise. And you look at Bo Nix. I mean, has Bo Nix surpassed Patrick Mahomes as the best fantasy QB option?
Ooh, that's a loaded question. So here's what's tough. Like, I think, and again, I mentioned this in the first answer, Patrick Mahomes, when he first came in, obviously 50 plus touchdowns, 5,000 yards. The following year, he had 40 touchdowns, like 4,500 yards or whatever. And since then, he's thrown for 4,000 yards each of the last seasons, but he's also not really thrown 40 touchdowns like he used to anymore, at least since Tyreek Hill isn't there. Last year, obviously, they didn't have Rashee Rice for a lot of the year. They did have that Xavier Worthy kid his rookie year. And even to this year, it's a bit slow. I thought Xavier Worthy would be further along, but offensively, they are kind of dialing it in. Against my Raiders, Rashee Rice looked like he hasn't missed a game yet. Right. And even against the Lions the previous week, that's a comparable defense. That offense moved pretty well. Right. But I look at Bo Nix, who has that running ability, has that running factor, because Bo Nix, actually looking at it, has about the same rushing touchdowns as Patrick Mahomes. Now, granted, he doesn't have as many air yards, but in a pass-happy offense that the Broncos have, I naturally feel like Bo Nix, and again, I think Bo Nix week to week is a solid quarterback, and I would trust to get me more points than Patrick Mahomes. And that's just only because Patrick Mahomes has had more games and more seasons where he has not hit his projections. You start him with hopes that he's going to nail it, and then he just doesn't. This is a year that he's exceeding expectations, but I don't know if Andy Reid is going to do that for the remaining 12 weeks of this season.
Right. And it's tough because, Patrick Mahomes, when you bet against him, he turns around and does some magical things. And sometimes that doesn't translate into fantasy points. High side, Bo Nix. Upside, look what he did this weekend. He started off struggling, but then finished in a flurry. Is he going to be able to do games like that again? Who knows? I think that may be a one-shot deal, but I do like Bo Nix moving forward to be a better fantasy quarterback. I think they still need. I like Sutton there, but I just still think they need somebody else for Bo Nix as far as a wide receiver. I still think they're really struggling in the tight end position there in Denver. I think that's something they need. The running back position, still a lot of questions there too. So Bo Nix is doing a lot of this on his own. So getting points, but that's going to be tough, man. I think the going into this season and how this season finishes up is going to tell us a lot. Whether you pick Nix or you go Mahomes next year, so it's going to be interesting. I got another question.
Okay,
we'll see if you can get up on this one.
All right,
you're probably going to get this one. Nicknamed Deuce as a child, this player played football for a bit in Naples, Italy.
Oh shoot! Oh gosh, this is a tough one. I'm going to go with my first answer that I gave in the second question, Ashton Genty.
Yes, very
right.
good, man. All right, we bounce back. Ashton Genty. Yes, no Deuce Genty. And I found that interesting that he was a military kid
Yeah.
and played football on base in Italy, which is kind of cool. So I'm actually really jealous. I've not been to Italy yet. I'm hoping to get there one day, guys. So if anybody out there has got some extra plane tickets laying around and want to send me to Italy, let me know. I'd love to do a football podcast in Italy. I think that'd be a lot of fun to do that. But
And Jason takes free donations too.
Yes, we do. But this is going to roll into my next question here, man. Ashton Genty, and especially ever since he changed the stance, the Michael Myers stance, which I kind of saw Gibbs copying that stance too.
Yeah,
So
I saw that too.
I wonder if that's going to be the new running back trend, the Michael Myers stance. But will we see Ashton Genty's full potential this year, or is it because the way that offense is performing, you're missing Brock Bowers, Geno having an off year, or will they kind of, I don't want to say shut him down, or will they utilize him less to make sure he doesn't get injured? What are you thinking here? Because I know you are a Raiders fan and you love your team, but trending the wrong way. So what are your thoughts on Mr. Genty? Will we see the full potential this year?
That's tough to say because running backs normally hit their stride year 2 to 3. So even if this was a successful year to Genty, and by what standards, I would say, over 1,000 yards and a handful of touchdowns, I think that's a successful year for him as a rookie.
Right.
Do I think he even hits those metrics? I think what makes it tough is our offensive line is not very good. And, I don't trust our offensive coordinator in Chip Kelly. He is not a very good game manager, play caller.
Chip Kelly.
I can't either. And I remember being on some shows and even, doing Drew Code. And I talked about this on the War Room as well, where I was apprehensive when we announced Chip Kelly was the OC. And I had people saying, no, I think he's going to do well. Look what he did with that Ohio State offense. And, look what he did with UCLA, which, by the way, he only had a 1 game above 500 record. So he didn't even do that well. But, I was telling some buddies, I was like, listen, you and I could have been the offensive coordinator and pass game coordinator. We would have had an undefeated season too. Cause they have so much talent,
right.
But I think what's tough is Ashton Genty, and he even said this in a press conference at the end of the Chiefs game, that it's a losing culture, which means that they don't know how to win. They don't know how to put their players in a position to win. So I don't think Ashton Genty hits his full potential with this regime, or at least with Chip Kelly. I think Chip Kelly, his run scheme, the offensive line that he has is going to hinder Genty. We saw it in the first 3 weeks where he really didn't get going up until week 4. And even still, he's having to fight for a lot of these yards. And he's really only had 2 games where he's exploded for either 100 yards or he's underneath 100 yards, but he's kind of utilized in the pass game. So, I think in garbage time, in just, he's a rookie, he's going to get as many reps as possible. I don't think he's going to get shut down. But I wouldn't expect him to be the guy that's going to get Jamar Gibbs touches. I wouldn't suspect him to get the same output as Jonathan Taylor, just because they have a more superior offensive line than the Raiders do, hands down. And I think next year we'll probably see what the Raiders look like regardless of whatever they do. But Genty right now is he's a good flex option. If you're really thin at running back, I still think he's a good option because, he's being used, but they also had a game against the Chiefs where they had less than 100 yards. And that's a reality we are going to have to live with as fantasy owners of an Ashton Genty, of a Brock Bowers, of a Jacoby Myers, if you had him on your roster. So that's just the reality of it. Genty is going to be great and you have a dynasty, but year to year, this is going to be a struggle year, but it's also his rookie year. I suspect a great season next, but we just have to get through this rookie year.
Right. And I think a lot of it, unfortunately, has to do with the defense because, right now, that Raiders offense struggling. And again, I think a lot of it is because Brock Bowers is not there. He's your number one. He, with him, that offense went. Right. So that takes a lot of firepower away. And then that just, without that, it leaves a lot on your defense. So
Yeah.
you're going to be behind in games. You're going to be playing catch up. So you're throwing the ball more. That's why Geno's just kind of chucking them up right now, throwing interceptions. So yeah, just Genty. This is hopefully you got him for dynasty and you can kind
Right.
of stash him for next year. But I would not be surprised, especially if the Raiders continue to trend down. You see more touches
Right.
go away from him because you don't want a season injury from someone like that. You want to make sure you're keeping them fresh for
Right.
next year. So, but speaking of those Raiders,
Mm-hmm.
will we ever remember Brock Bowers? Because it feels like he's been gone forever. Like it's
Sure.
terrible. But man, the tight end position has
Mm-hmm.
always been kind of thin in fantasy football. I think we're seeing a resurgence because again, Brock Bowers, hopefully he gets back healthy. But Tyler Warren in Indy is ridiculous right now. He is the next Brock Bowers. I think he's having that kind of season.
Yeah, he's a great.
And I think it helps that Taylor and Jones are up there for MVPs right now and
Right.
playing the Colts the way they are. So I think he's benefiting from that. But Arondé Gadsden, shout out Syracuse. Rondé Gadsden the third is emerging. Had a huge fantasy game last week. Is the tight end position coming back? Are we seeing that finally, that tight end resurgence where 5-10 years ago you had those big name tight ends and you can get some points out of them, just kind of thinned out a little bit there. But are you seeing a comeback for that tight end position?
I'm going to make the argument it didn't go anywhere. We just got spoiled with having like a Travis Kelce like player that we assume, or Jimmy Graham, or, some other tight ends that kind of come to mind. I remember Jermichael Finley, who had like an astonishing season with Aaron Rodgers. And honestly, like tight end play to me hasn't changed. Like it's progressed. And now you have more athletic, more physical, like a George Kittle comes to mind.
Right.
But honestly, the tight end position has always been what it is, which is an extra blocker, security blanket for the quarterback. But the more talented they are, that's how they look like they get utilized. But we've been spoiled with like Travis Kelce, where I couldn't tell you, Jason, I think you would agree with this. Like I've been in several drafts where Travis Kelce is the end of the first round pick. Like he was a first round pick for 5 consecutive years.
For a lot of years, yeah.
But look at the production that he did. And I think a lot of people are chasing like, when is this going to go again? Then we get spoiled with Mark Andrews. And again, the more talented they are, the more dynamic these offensive are. We see like they'll get 4 targets a game, maybe 3 catches. And sometimes you get like a Jake Ferguson like performance where you get 2 touchdowns and all this stuff. But I think how tight ends have evolved with being, more athletic, more versatile in the passing game. Tyler Warren is a great rookie. You look at Brock Bowers, that had a great rookie season, which, by the way, when he comes back against Jacksonville next week for week 9, I think he'll have a bounce back week. Michael Mayer, who's a second-year tight end in the absence, has been pretty good.
Yeah,
but also
solid.
Yeah, but also too, like look at Colston Loveland, who got drafted by the Bears. He is kind of fighting for reps right now with Cole Kmet, who came out looking like he's going to be a good tight end. But tight ends have always been thin in fantasy football because there's really 6 reliable ones. But in general, depending on if you have an offense that's moving the ball well, you can plug in any tight end. I've played some fantasy leagues where I've streamed tight ends the whole season because there is not a number one guy that's worthy. Like I'll pick up this guy because of matchup. I'll pick up that guy because he's hot for 2 weeks. But it's been like that for 10 years. At least I've been playing fantasy where the tight end is tight end. Like you're going to get some production, but don't count on them getting receiver-like production unless you hit on a Travis Kelce-esque player.
Right.
But to me, the tight end position it's always been the same.
Interesting take. I like that. And I could see that point of view. But for me, I've always thought the tight end of past is different from the tight end to today, the way they utilize them. But a lot of it depends on the talent of the actual tight end, where you're either going to get a playmaker and another wide receiver, or you're just getting a guy to fill the line and be a run block, and a run blocker and a stuffer. So, but I'm liking the resurgence. We are going to need it because, of course, Kelce on his way out, I would not be surprised if he hung him up at the end of this year.
Yeah.
So it is nice to see a Bowers, a Warren, a Gadsden. I'd like to see Loveland step it up a little bit and get some more touches in that offense. I think it's a little tough because you do have O'Dunes and you have some bigger guys in
Right.
there. Luther Burden, in there also. So the touches and the targets aren't as much. But I like the resurgence of the tight end, especially the wide receiver tight end, because for fantasy football, that just when you have a little more depth in the tight end position, you're not wasting a first, second, or third round pick on a tight end. You can kind of wait a little bit and go, okay, I'm still going to be able to get somebody good in the later rounds, and that's always tough to do. So,
Right.
But in that West, last question here, give me a sleeper fantasy guy for each one of the teams. So Raiders, Chargers, Broncos, Chiefs. Give me a sleeper moving forward. We got about 7 more weeks left in the season. Who can we not sleep on in the West?
Okay. And you want one from each team, yeah?
Just one from each team. Boom, boom, boom.
All right. So for the Raiders, I'm going to say it depends on what a lot is going to happen with play calling and Jacoby Myers being traded. If Jacoby Myers is traded, I think obviously Trey Tucker is still the number one option. And I'll give you a second sleeper on that. I would look at Jack Besh. So he's been getting a little bit.
See him.
Yeah. Honestly, I would like to see Thornton get used a lot more because he's supposed to be a deep threat. But for the sake of it, Jack Besh is the more polished running route runner. So I think we're going to see him incorporate a little bit more. And we've been seeing him get more snap increases over the last 2 weeks. And, we're going to just say the Chiefs game was a bad game and no one on the offense really saw the field, but Besh has been on the field increasingly so. So I think he's going to start earning the trust of Geno. He's going to start seeing more. So I would say, like, if Jacoby Myers isn't there anymore, I would say Besh is probably next in line to get some target shares.
I like that.
Yeah, for the Chiefs. And this is a deep one. And I saw this a lot with the Chiefs against the Raiders and what they did with the Lions. But I think Braylon Smith, I think that's his name, who the rookie running back, he is a pass catching running back. And he was a PPR.
I like that too.
Nightmare last one. So that's a deep one. That's the one I would say, like, if you picked him up and you stashed him, because again, they have Isaiah Pacheco, they have Kareem Hunt.
Right.
They're not both the healthiest of backs. And I think, Smith is somebody that has earned the trust each week of Andy Reid and Matt Nagy, where I see him on the field a lot more. I see him in screenplay a lot more. He's gotten a lot more of touches to get running back carries. So I would look to him as like a deep sleeper on that front of it. Okay.
I like that. Pick a lot.
For the Broncos, we talked about pass happy. I could cop out and say RG Harvey, which is their first round pick, but I'm actually going to go Marvin Mims. Marvin Mims has been connecting with
good pick. Yes.
Bo Nix the last 2 weeks. I've actually picked up Mims in a couple of leagues right now. And honestly, his connection with Bo Nix is getting stronger. I'm seeing each week. Now, Sean Payton's problem is, like, he checks down every other play. So he does, Bo Nix can air it out. He can get it to Mims, but for some reason, Sean Payton just loves to run a screenplay, and that's great, but that does not help Mims, or that gets him lossage. But I still think that Mims is going to be that backup to Courtland Sutton that you were talking about. So I would say Mims is that guy that you can rely on as a sleeper. Okay.
Cool.
For the Chargers, this is tough because I've got 2 players in mind. One, he's probably picked up in a majority league, and that'd be Quentin Johnston. I think has earned the trust to be a deep flex play.
Yeah.
I think if you have grabbed him,
learn how to catch the ball. That's that's crazy. Like last year couldn't catch the ball. This year, learn how to catch.
Exactly. Well, not only that, but look at Keenan Allen, who's joined the team. They both kind of have the dropsies, but Keenan Allen reeled in 13 catches. Yep. Quentin Johnston had, I think, 3 catches, but 2 of them were for long plays, and I think he scored, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So Quentin Johnston, if you can get him, is a good one. I think a sleeper one, though, and again, this is really just hindsight because I think they want to open up the offense a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if Trey Harris, the rookie, gets on the field a little bit. I want to see him
emerge. Yeah.
I think what makes it tough is you have PPR nightmares with Ladd McConkey and Keenan Allen, who's still heavily involved in that offense. And you have Quentin Johnston, who's a vertical threat. But I think towards the latter part, the second half of the season, I would even say, like, week 9, I would see Trey Harris get a little bit more because he was on the field a lot more in the game against Indianapolis. And I can see him being a little bit more ingratiated with the pass play because I think it's Greg Roman who's our OC. He likes to take the top off of defenses. I think having Trey Harris, who can make plays in the air, who can also route run, I think he could be utilized a little bit more. So he would be a deep cut that I would say, like, stash away, just be patient. That could be a player that hits on it later in the year.
I like that. That's some good stuff, man. That's some good stuff. West Side, the best side. So, guys, again, if you have not checked him out, please jump on that the bandwagon that is the West War Room Rivals, man. You do some phenomenal stuff there, man. They're on the YouTube channel, guys. Please go check them out. Cody and them boys are doing some great stuff there. So I appreciate you, and I appreciate visiting the West right now. So,
hell yeah.
But now we're going to jump into we're not just going to hand out awards to hand out awards, but we're going to hand out some awards to hand out awards. So we're a little over halfway through the season right now, which is crazy to think about. So I think it's time we do our halfway award winners here. So, Cody, I'm going to throw this to you.
Okay.
Let's start off. Who do you have halfway through fantasy football right now? Who are your award winners? Who do you got?
All right. For my quarterback, Jason, cover your ears. I've got Dak Prescott as my number 1 quarterback for the halfway awards. Listen,
first Bo Nix, now this. Come on, man.
I think too, what we've been surprised in, and I was one of the first ones to say this, and I know you and I teased our pres Michael Davis about this when they hired Brian Schottenheimer. We were like, bad move.
Whew.
This offense is going to take a step back. Yep. No, if anything, this offense is more dynamic now with Brian Schottenheimer. He is not afraid to air it out. Them acquiring George Pickens has really gotten Dak Prescott to elevate his play this year, in my opinion. So he would be my halfway winner in terms of quarterback. For running back, I'm going to go Jonathan Taylor. You touched on this earlier in the show where, a little bit of injury and he's kind of slowed down. He still had a good season last year, 1,400 yards, but this year, he's on pace to go about 1,600 to 1,700 yards, and he is nothing more than a touchdown machine. He had 3 touchdowns on Sunday against the Chargers, and I think he had 3 the previous week. So all he does is just rush for touchdowns, and he's dangerous. That offensive line can block a Humvee. Like he is just going to explode through whatever avenue that they give him, and he's not looking back. So he would be my running back halfway award winner.
I like that. Front runner for MVP too, man. He's having a phenomenal season.
I think him and Jamar Gibbs have an argument to be MVPs, in my opinion.
Yep, I like it.
Devontae Adams would be my receiver award winner, and here's why.
Get a whole head in there. Woof.
That's right, because he's killing it right now. He had 3 touchdowns across the pond against the Jaguars. Say what you want about the Jaguars, but since he's been in Sean McVay's office with, I would even argue, a more talented quarterback than Aaron Rodgers, because he's a Super Bowl winner. He gets guys to play
that.
He gets guys to rise to the occasion. Devontae Adams and Matthew Stafford, the old heads, are leading the way right now for the Rams. I have the Rams. I started off in the preseason saying that I had them in NFC contention to compete against the Eagles for the NFC title. Now, even with Puka on the field, Devontae Adams has been killing it with his production, and it's only going to go up now because Puka's injured. And Sean McVay, we've seen this, will force feed a receiver that ball, whether they like it or they don't. So
Devontae Adams effect. Yep, I like it.
100%. So Devontae Adams would be my receiver. Tight end, I'm so sorry, Jason, cover yours. Jake Ferguson. You can't deny it.
2 Cowboys on the list? Good Lord.
You can't deny it. Jake Ferguson was tight end 20. I think he was tight end 26 last season. Tight end number 1. He's already doubled his touchdowns this year. He's going to more than double his yardage in terms of, he's probably going to get to 1,000 yards by the end of the season. He's got this connection, and Brian Schottenheimer is utilizing him, which this goes to show when the run game is working, you head to your tight ends and they're there for you. He had 2 touchdowns against the Commanders on Sunday, and you can just see that him and Dak have a connection. It's Dak's safety blanket. And listen, fantasy is all about numbers, right? We want to score the most amount of points. We want the most amount of numbers. You got quarterback number 2 from the Cowboys, and you got tight end number 1 from the Cowboys. They're literally winning games. And so I can't help but put them on the list. I have no choice. I have no choice. No. I have a former Raider on the list,
I have to agree with you. That's a great list. Those guys are all having phenomenal fantasy seasons. Didn't come in highly rated either. So
Right.
for all that those guys on that list to be doing what they're doing, what a phenomenal season for them. So and I'm going to hit you with one more question here. You
All right.
ready?
Yes, sir.
All right. This QB was the first since 1973 to toss 10 touchdowns to 10 different receivers, as well as being the first in NFL history to toss for 4,000 yards, rush for 500 yards, and have a completion percentage of at least 69% in his first 20 games.
Oh shoot. Okay.
Yeah, big, a lot to digest there.
Yeah. Oh shoot. First QB to have 4,000 yards and 500 rushing.
Yep, in his first 20 games. 10 touchdowns to 10 different receivers, which I thought was pretty crazy too.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I don't want to sound like a cop out, but this is the only player that comes to mind because I can't think of a receiver he's thrown more than one touchdown to. But I'm probably going to say Drake May.
Man, fire! You're on fire, sir.
Oh,
Drake
all
May.
right. I got it.
You got it right. So good job. Good job there. Yeah, he had 23 points over the weekend, 221 yards, couple of touchdowns. I tell you what, Drake May has been impressive this year, and he gets my first award there.
Mhm.
I'm going for my QB has been Drake May. He's QB number 4. I didn't think, man, again, coming into this season, you're like, well, Patriots, I mean, I know they got Diggs, but is he like a viable wide receiver anymore? They really don't have anybody else. You know, Drake May, you kind of had an okay rookie season, but coming in, not expecting a lot. Man, to be QB number 4, to be ascending the way
Mhm.
he is playing great football. And I would not be surprised with as bad as the Buffalo Bills defense is and has how well the Patriots are playing. I would not be surprised if the New England Patriots won the East this year, the
Yeah.
way Drake May is playing. So I got to give him props. Just a phenomenal year so far. Exceeded my expectations. I thought coming in, tons of questions. Let's see what the kid does. But he has done nothing but perform and has got them winning games. Well,
Mhm.
so I'm giving it up to Drake May. My running back, run CMC.
Yeah.
Christian McCaffrey, the number 1 running back in the league. Look, there was questions whether he was even going to play football again or not with
Mhm.
what he's got going on in his legs and his knees. He's not dead yet, and for him to be the number 1 running back with all these other running backs that are going bananas. I mean, Taylor's going nuts. Gibbs. I mean, Junkins. You got a lot of great running backs out there right now. For Christian McCaffrey to still be number 1, to have a injury riddled mash unit of a 49ers team in first place. He's doing something special. Knock on wood, the Niners bug be biting. I don't know what they got, some bad juju or something going on in San Francisco. They got to
Yeah.
change the field. I don't know what it is, but their injuries just pile up like it's ridiculous. Excuse me, it's ridiculous. But man, Christian McCaffrey, I'm sorry, dude. I had you dead and buried and retired. You obviously are not even close to that yet. So phenomenal first half of the season from my man Run CMC. And wide receiver George Pickens. Look, it pains me. He's a
Yeah.
Cowboy. But dude, he's the number 3 wide receiver. And I know it helps with CD Lamb going down. But with the trade from Pittsburgh, with the baggage that came along with him,
Mhm.
he has done nothing but impress. Some of the catches he has made from Dak Prescott, just falling down, going out of bounds, just some of the magnificent catches he's making. He is stepped up and he is thriving there in Big D. I almost wish we would have picked him up in New York because it would have been great to see him. right next to Neighbors.
Right.
But man, I am impressed, but not just impressed with how he's playing, because we knew he's a phenomenal talent, but he hasn't gotten his own way. Like he had, I don't know, I can't remember the last time he had a flag thrown on him. So for him to kind of be doing that is awesome. I can't say nothing bad about him. And again, as a Giants fan, it hurts to talk that well about a Cowboy, but he's earned it. He's earned them catches. He's earned the respect. And tight end, I got to go Tyler Warren. Man, he is unbelievable right now. A little over 100 points total. He is the key. I think he's like the glue, because Taylor's running. Indiana Jones is playing well, but Tyler Warren he can catch the ball. They've had some plays where they had him running out of the backfield. Like, he does a lot of dynamic things that you wouldn't see a tight end do. Some of the routes he runs, and he is the safety valve. Like Daniel Jones, he's getting rushed. He's getting pressured. He's got to get rid of the ball. Third down. Tyler Warren's getting that ball. I think he is the next Brock Bowers. I mean, he is phenomenal. Earlier in the season, he was starting to play well, tried to get some trades going with some people, and I tried to pick him up, and a lot of people were not having it, and I don't blame them, and I bet you they're glad they stuck with him. So Tyler Warren, he is going to be a monster tight end in this league for fantasy football points, and he is thriving. That Colts offense, and again, as a Giants fan, to watch the death of Danny Dimes and the rebirth of Indiana Jones is something magical that is going on there in Indy. So those are my midseason awards. I appreciate you giving me yours, but some great performances so far from some guys this year, and we got another half to go. So it'll be interesting to see how this progresses. And I got my last question for you.
Okay.
So here we go. This player's grandfather is legendary Wisconsin coach Barry Alvarez. He also has a weird pregame ritual, the way he puts on his socks. Left sock first, right sock second. Left shoe first, right shoe second. Who am I?
Ooh. Okay, my only hint, position.
I can't give that up because that would give it away. We've talked about him.
Oh, okay. We talked about him.
Yeah.
And you said he's a grandson to what player?
To legendary Wisconsin coach Barry Alvarez.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cuss in the program.
No, you're fine. I like stumping. You know what? I try to do the stumping. So
no, hold on. I'm gonna send you I'm still gonna send you a guess. Okay, you wouldn't give up the position. It's only offense.
Yep, modern guy. Like I said, I don't do no throwback stuff.
Okay. Oh man, shoot. Okay, who's somebody that I just want to throw out there? I would have never have guessed.
I kind of figured that, but you already talked about him. My man Jake Ferguson, which I thought was pretty crazy. That
I was going to throw out quarterback to you, but okay, I was way off then.
So Jake Ferguson, which I thought was crazy, and again, a little pregame ritual. And all these guys have pregame rituals too. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. That is very interesting. His grandfather's Barry Alvarez. I can remember Barry Alvarez. I go back that far. On the sideline there for Wisconsin when Wisconsin was actually good. So, which is pretty crazy.
I should have clued in Wisconsin. They're a tight end school too.
They are a tight end school.
Kind of like Iowa. Iowa's like tight TEU.
Yeah. Miami, the U is like that too. They're pretty big on their tight ends too. So, but now we get into the best part of the show, man. We get into our starts and our sits because a lot of people want to know who should we start and who should we sit. So, Cody, I'm going to let you go first, man. Who should you start this week in fantasy football?
All right. So for your quarterback, you definitely need to start Daniel Jones. I think he's got a friendly matchup against the Titans, who have a poor defense. Obviously, don't have a head coach. Right. So Daniel Jones, we just talked about him. He's basically MVP contender. He's got a co-MVP in Jonathan Taylor behind him and Tyler Ward. So
Right.
for all that to say, you can trust Daniel Jones to be a fantasy relevant quarterback and more likely win you some games too, just based off how many points he can put up. My running back start is Cam Scatterbo.
That's surprising too against Philly. That's very surprising.
He had 3 rushing touchdowns and almost 100 total yards, or I think he had over 100 total yards, but he had 95 rush yards against the Eagles, who, for all intents and purposes, were supposed to have the number 1 defense in the NFL. And Cam Scatterbo, I think what it is because he plays so physically, and Jackson Dart, because he's so mobile and he spreads the ball out, that it really is hard for the Eagles to dial it in because like they hope that teams can't play as physical as you can, and Cam thrives off of physicality. I feel like Cam gets better more when physicality is given out later towards the game. I feel like he's your guys' version, a miniature version of Derrick Henry, where he gets better as the game wears on because he dishes out punishment and teams just don't want that punishment.
He likes to hit people. Yeah. He likes to run into people. He doesn't shy away from contact. He loves to put his head down and go, which is also a recipe for disaster and stingers and everything else. But man, he's a lot of fun to watch, man. I'm super excited about him as a Giants fan.
So I would trust him, and he would be my start. I think he's a running back, and especially with a lot of bye weeks, you definitely want a running back that you can rely on. I think Cam has earned enough stock to say you can start him and as at least an RB2 and see how that works. I think it would fit well. For wide receiver, Romeo Odunze, I know that he didn't have much of a connection with Williams in the last game, but they're going up against a really bad Ravens defense. They are giving points away like it's like an AARP discount card, man. Everyone's getting one. I would not be surprised if, Caleb Williams has one of his best games of the year, and I think Odunze is going to get multiple touchdowns in this game because what DB is going to be able to cover him? I don't think there is any because and I think you pointed this out on your show. He has ascended to a level now to where he is a legit 1. I would say he is now 1, and DJ Moore is a complementary piece rather than the other way around. I think Odunze has ascended that much, and him and Caleb Williams' connection is only going to get better. And I think going against the Ravens, who Ben Johnson thrives on defenses like the Ravens that want to blitz you and leave you in one-on-one coverage. I think Romeo Odunze is going to be a guy that's going to eat in this game. So he'd be my start. And then tight end, it's a long one, and it's kind of counterintuitive because I have Cam as a running back, but I would say Dallas Goedert for a tight end because he is still Jalen Hurts' safety blanket. And each of the last 3 games, his targets have not dipped less than 6. And his last game, he actually had 12 targets. And I believe he had 3 touchdowns in that game as well. So for all intents and purposes, I look at targets like as if they are catches because that's opportunities. You cannot see Dallas Goedert with 12 targets and not think he's not going to get the ball or convert those too. And against the Giants, who are going to bring the pressure, Jalen Hurts is going to want to get that ball out quick. Dallas Goedert is always that safety blanket. So that would be my stardom picks for week 8.
Solid picks, man. I appreciate that. So I'm going to jump into mine here real quick. I'm going to throw mine up here. Where am I here? Let me remove that here. First, I am starting Michael Penix. I'm looking for a bounce back game. Subpar performance this past week. He is going against a just ridiculously horrible Miami Dolphins team. So let's say Michael Penix is probably going to have the best game of his career against those Miami Dolphins because they are just dead fish walking. Mm-hmm. Running back Chuba Hubbard. Look, just came back last week. Didn't have a lot of production. Of course, Rico Dowdle stepped in and filled that role masterfully. But they are going against the Buffalo Bills. And I couldn't believe this stat when I looked it up. The Buffalo Bills are 31st against the rush. They give up 156 yards per game. So needless to say, Chuba Hubbard and Rico, there's going to be enough yards to go around for both of y'all. So I am starting Chuba Hubbard against that lackluster Bills defense. They got a lot of holes, and Chuba, now that he's going to be second game back from injury, I think he's going to have his legs under him a little bit better. So I like him going against that Buffalo Bills defense. We talked about May earlier, and wide receiver Kayshon Boutte, 2 weeks in a row with a touchdown. I think it's going to be 3 because he's getting a nice little rapport here with Mr. Drake May. He needs that number one. I know Diggs is solid, but I don't think he's a one guy anymore. So I like Boutte coming through and getting him a couple of catches in the end zone this weekend, with Drake May really becoming a phenomenal quarterback. And, the piggyback off of Michael Penix, I think we're going to have a Kyle Pitts sighting, because Kyle Pitts, he'll show up, he'll do something, and then he'll kind of disappear for a few games. So he's been disappeared for a little bit. So I think he shows up again. Again, he's going against the Miami Dolphins, which is a horrible, horrible team right now. So, yes, give me Kyle Pitts starting against the Dolphins for your tight end position here. And those are my starts for week 8.
So really good.
I try. I mean, sometimes I hit it, sometimes not so much. So, but I think those are some solid picks. So now, we talk about matchups. So, Cody, who are you sitting this week?
All right. So there's going to be a theme to a couple of these. So you are definitely going to want to sit Tua. If you're somebody that's even rostering Tua, you need to drop him. He is not a starting quarterback at this point. He needs to either ride the bench or he needs to go to a new team, not name the Dolphins, because the Dolphins are a hot mess, which leads me to
hard to watch. Oh, he is hard to watch right now.
Yes, and he threw 3 interceptions last game. He only completed 12 passes the entire day. So that means, 30% of his throws were intercepted. That's not great. And I think barely 100 pass yards, and calling out players when he's the one that needs to be held accountable. It's not great. So fantasy wise, Tua is not a quarterback that you need to start. So you need to absolutely sit him. Devon Achane is the running back you do not want to play. And here's why. They're going against Atlanta. Atlanta is a stout run defense. They will get after it. Do not be fooled by Achane being fast, because if they are going to make the Dolphins a one-dimensional team and have Tua beat them, they will take away Achane in a heartbeat, and that means you're relying on Tua's arm. And I don't think this offense has the heart to compete with Atlanta. And I think Atlanta, to your credit, Jason, is going to want to come out and prove a point to where, Michael Penix Jr. is going to want to have a career game. I think that defense is going to bounce back from a poor play from San Francisco on Monday. So you want to set Achane. This one breaks my heart a little bit because I do like Stephon Diggs, but I think, him going against Cleveland is a top 10 defense fantasy wise, which means that they are stopping guys and they muddy up the game. It is not a pretty game when you play Cleveland. So whether or not they have a winning record or not, their defense gets after quarterbacks, makes it very tough. I'm not saying that Drake May is going to have a very bad game, but I think it's going to be very hard for him to get the ball out frequently. Stephon Diggs has been the number one guy. I think Stephon Diggs is not startable in this case. I think, he's going to get his usual couple of catches, but I don't think he's going to be a starting level receiver, that you can find in other ways. So I would set Stephon Diggs. And lastly, this one is a bit different because Zach Ertz has actually been a reliable tight end all season. And even against Dallas in garbage time, he had his points. But they're going against the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Kansas City Chiefs defense has been coming along. And I think what's going to happen now with the Commanders being injured, this is what the Chiefs game plan normally is. They put a bunch of points on you in a short amount of time, and then they have that defense lean on you, which means you get out of your run game, you get into having to play catch up. And what they do is they let your quarterback, I don't see Marcus Mariota being a quarterback that's going to win this game. He's probably going to turn the ball over. And I think that's going to play right in the Chiefs' hands. So I would say Zach Ertz is a sit because those linebackers will tag him. And he will not get as many targets, nor is he going to be an impact player, because I think the Chiefs are going to put fire on the Commanders and Mariota. And I think in general, the Chiefs are just going to just take away a lot of their weapons. And that's just because the Chiefs are getting hot at the right time. They went through their injury slump. Now they're hitting their stride to where they're getting rhythm for the next 10 weeks of the season. And here we go again with the Chiefs in the playoffs. So that would be my sit of the week.
I like that. That's solid advice from a man, Cody. Because, yes, there are some pretty bad matchups here. And let's get into my sits. Right now, Spencer Rattler. Saints, they just look a mess. I know they beat the Giants, but that's a whole other story. But I'm not loving Spencer Rattler right now. He's going against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is going to want to bounce back from that horrendous performance in Detroit. So I expect them to smack him around a little bit. Running back Tony Pollard. I'm actually surprised he hasn't been traded yet. I know there's some teams out there that are looking for a running back, and with the retooling and revamping and everything that the Titans are doing, they're just a bad team right now. They're going against Indiana. They're going to have so many points on the board. They're just going to abandon the run by probably 5 minutes to go in the second quarter. So I don't like Tony Pollard in this matchup. And Indy's got a pretty good defense too, run defense. So and then the piggyback off of Spencer Rattler, Rashid Shaheed. I think he's not going to really do anything here. Again, Tampa Bay, this is a divisional game. They need to win. They know Atlanta's kind of hanging around right there. The Panthers are in the mix too. So Tampa Bay needs to come out and, really kind of be dominant in this game to get back on track after Monday night. So don't like Rashid Shaheed in this game. And it breaks my heart, but Theo, you got lucky last week with a bounce pass off of a wide receiver. Look, luck to me is the residue of hard work and athleticism, and it was a great job for catching that ball and getting a touchdown. But Theo against Philly, I think that's going to be a tough game. I think it's going to be more of a ground and pound kind of game. I think the Giants are going to want to kind of drag that out. So I really don't see Theo doing much against the Philadelphia Eagles. So those are my sits of the week so far. So guys, watch your matchups out there. So, but now it's getting late. We've had a great show. And again, I appreciate you being on here, Cody. But this is the time where we tend to kind of start dozing off a little bit. So I need to get from you your sleepers of the week. So who should we not sleep on right now in the NFL?
You should definitely not sleep on Chase Brown of Cincinnati. He had the most rushing yards last week against Pittsburgh. He has a favorable matchup against the Jets. You definitely want to have him in a flex. Maybe you got a injury at running back. He's definitely a guy that you can rely on, especially with the resurgence of Joe Flacco. We talked about this early in the show where Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are making Joe Flacco fantasy relevant, which opens up the run game. I think Chase Brown is definitely a player you don't want to sleep on. This is one of my favorite players that I don't know why they don't get as much love. And I'm not saying that you don't give them love. I think you appreciate that they're on your team. But like what we were saying, like targets to me equal opportunity. So all I see is this person getting targets, and that's Rondell Robinson. Like to me, he is a sleeper for the reason of because he's elusive. He runs routes like crazy. He's very fast. He's shifty. When he is targeted, he usually makes the most of his opportunities. Don't get me wrong.
Consistent. He's pretty consistent with that.
Last season, I remember where, he was obviously second to him in the league neighbors, but because of how he's able to move from the outside to the slot. And again, in my notes here, I put, he has 26 targets in the last, or excuse me, not him. He has, I think it's 22 targets in the last 2 to 3 games. That's opportunity right there. And he had, I think, 9 catches last week. So you look at a player like Robinson and you're looking for a guy to put it in your flex. To me, I'm surprised Robinson doesn't get more love in the sense of like, he's not really a household name, but yet he's being utilized like crazy, regardless of if they're winning or not. That's points, that's opportunity, that's catches, that wins you games, in my opinion. So that would be that. Third player, Jordan Addison, 26 targets in the last 3 games. He's had a touchdown. He's had a touchdown in the last 2 consecutive ones, and he's only been rising ever since he's been back. And this is with Carson Wentz. So this is not even with their number 1 quarterback in JJ McCarthy. So I think Jordan Addison is a player that you probably don't want to sleep on. If you have a super flex or a deep flex, I would say if you need a spot to put, Jordan Addison would be one of them because he's a very good number 2 to Justin Jefferson. And
Right.
he's only proving that honestly, if he goes to another team, he elevates that much more because of how good he is. But fortunately, he's in a pass happy offense like what Kevin O'Connell has, and you don't want to sleep on him.
Right. I like it, man. That's great, guys. Listen, that's sound advice. Don't sleep on those guys. I got a few here too myself. I'm going Matthew Golden, wide receiver, Green Bay Packers. They're going against Pittsburgh. They've been utilizing Golden a lot more. I like what I've seen from him, and not saying that this is a revenge game. Going against Aaron Rodgers, but I think the Packers really wanted to come out and make a statement in this game, especially against a one Aaron Rodgers. So I like Matthew Golden in this matchup against them. We talked about him earlier. Aronde Gadsden, he's going against the Vikings. Vikings got a good defense, so they're going to need. He's going. They're going to need to get rid of the ball, and I like the tight end position here against the Vikings. I think they're going to, that those Chargers, they're just going to have to get the ball out. So I like that. Aronde Gadsden this week. He had a big week last week, so don't sleep on him. I think he's going to have another big week. He is becoming a huge part of this Chargers offense. And I like Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce catches a lot of crazy balls, man. And with as much as Daniel Jones has been throwing the ball, as much as that run game has been opening up those passing legs, Alec Pierce has been catching some deep balls. So they're going against Tennessee. It's going to be a bloodbath. So, guys, my sleeper wide receiver, Alec Pierce, going against Tennessee. I think Daniel Jones has another 400-yard passing game. I think it's going to be ugly against those Tennessee Titans. But those are my sleepers. And, guys, I appreciate you joining us here today on Sideline Savants. Went through a lot of information, but digest it, think about it, and go out there, set your lineups, go out and win your week. This is it. We're past halfway. You need to start making your run for the playoffs here. Trade deadlines are coming up too. So this is the time to start, I don't want to say fleecing the flock, but you get a lot of those teams that are 1-5. Start hitting those guys up and see if they want to do some trading. So, but man, Cody, thank you so much for joining me here, guys. Let the people know where they can find you.
Jason, I appreciate the invite to Sideline Savants. I love it, man. I love the show, and so I'm glad I was able to be on here. You can catch me on West War Room Rivals at West War Room Rivals on either TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. If you want to see any other stuff that I'm doing, it's also Drew Code Sports Talk. It's been a little dormant, so if you go watch that, some older content. I'm more like West War Room Rivals right now, but you can catch me anywhere on either one of those. I try to do my best to be in there and to be active. So, interact with us, whether it's on either one, and you'll probably get me. So
awesome, man. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for blessing us with your knowledge. And guys, join us Wednesdays, 12 p.m. for Sideline Savants. I also do 3 from Deep. The NBA season just started. We've had some great games already to start the season off. So check me on Mondays on the Boom Broadcasting Network on demand, talking some NBA basketball. So we got basketball, we got football. The World Series is about to start. This is probably one of the best times of year to be a sports fan. So guys, thank you very much. And I appreciate you jumping on here. Hit that like and subscribe button. Hit me with any comments, questions you got, and we'll check you next week, man. Peace. Thank you, Cody.
See you, brother.